Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. A little over 2 months from today, Donald Trump will be sworn in as the 47th President of the United States of America. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was among the first to call and speak to the US President-elect. PM Modi also posted photographs with Trump from 2020 in his post on X. He wrote that he was looking forward to renewing our collaboration to further strengthening the India-US comprehensive global and strategic partnership. So what can India look forward to from Donald Trump 2.0? Let's look at the 5 areas in which India and the US could feel the Trump impact. Area number 1, technology and space. Number 2, defense. Number 3, visas. Number 4, energy. And finally, number 5, the Five Eyes intelligence cooperation that has a bearing on India's national security. Joining me to discuss this are Colonel Anurag Avasthi, Pramit Pal, Head of India Practice Eurasia Group, and in the studio I have with me my colleagues Aditya Raj Kaul, who's been tracking the Khalistan cases in Canada and the US, and Justin Thomas, who's been closely following the Trump campaign. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Aditya, first up, I want to ask you, since you've been exchanging messages with a certain Gurpatwant Singh Pannu over the last couple of hours,
right?
Are the Khalistanis running scared now that Donald Trump is in the White House, or soon to be in the White House, months from now?
Well, Sandeep, Indians would like to believe that there would be a policy change,
right.
There would be something different happening in the Trump presidency. But I hate to break it to you that I don't think that much will change when it comes to Khalistan, when it comes to Gurpatwant Singh Pannu.
Why do you say that? One would assume that Donald Trump is friendlier towards India and he doesn't want to pursue all these agendas that are seen more as democratic agendas.
See, on agendas and narratives, I'll be very clear that yes, there will be a difference.
Right.
Kamala Harris and the so-called squad, etc., in AOC and others,
yes,
have been very vocally leftist in their, agenda.
Right.
And that would drastically change with Trump presidency, just like we saw in the last time.
Right.
Trump was very openly, blatantly critical of both Pakistan as well as Taliban.
Yes.
He had this peace deal under works that began during the Trump presidency with Afghanistan, but also the kind of narrative that we saw in the last few years developing against India from the US soil will not be there.
Right.
But when it comes to Khalistan,
Right.
who is that powerful force behind Gurpatwant Singh Pannu,
Right.
a one-man army of the designated terror group SFJ,
Yes.
is anybody's guess. Yesterday, just like you pointed out, I put a question: what happens to Gurpatwant Singh Pannu now that Trump is the president?
Right.
And immediately I received a WhatsApp message
Yes.
from the man himself, Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, sending me a WhatsApp message saying that, I have something for you, but I'm in a bad network area, so wait for half an hour.
Right.
So half an hour later, he sends me a video of 2019, which I clearly remember, because in 2019, immediately after the opening of the Kartarpur corridor, he had sent me that video at that time as well. And it's a very interesting 3-minute video where Pannu is welcoming Donald Trump at a Trump rally in USA.
You mean Gurpatwant Singh Pannu,
Gurpatwant Singh Pannu
welcoming
along
Donald
with
Trump?
other supporters, he's part of that rally.
Right.
He may be part of the general public, who knows? But he's trying to show that he has that access, he has that reach, and even though Trump is in his second presidency as the 47th president of USA, nobody is really going to touch him. Canada hasn't till now. In fact, in Canada, when he roams around, there are in fact Canadian cops giving him security. Imagine the kind of power that he has. So as of now, I don't see any kind of a major action against Pannu, but I do believe that the kind of narrative building, the kind of plants that were going in media, especially The Guardian, Washington Post and New York Times against India on Khalistan, they might at least reduce a little. What I also understand is that the cases that are pending right now, in case of Nikhil Gupta and others, a lot is being discussed in the public forum. That may not happen. The strategic partnership with US will prevail, and there will be backdoor negotiations with USA. Also, when it comes to Canada, one may believe that Canada and US are iron brothers, just like Pakistan and China want to claim. But he is very clear. And with Modi, he has this understanding. He is on the same page. In a few ways, there are similar characters as well, where they want their country first. They want trade first, they want economy and business ties first.
Absolutely.
And nothing else could prevail over that kind of a strategic partnership.
Right, absolutely. But, there is also that warm personal connect that Prime Minister Modi has with President Trump. And we've seen that over the last couple of years, 5 or 6 years. And in fact, that warmth came out in the messages on X as well, which is owned by Elon Musk.
And Modi, in fact, was one of the first 10 leaders to call Trump.
Yes.
That is very significant.
And he posted those photographs as well, the pictures that you're seeing on the VG right now. But Pramit, I want to bring you on this. How much of the personal equation between Prime Minister Modi and President-elect Trump is going to overcome the larger, let's say, elephants in the room when it comes to the India-US strategic relationship, like the Five Eyes cooperation, Gurpatwan Singh Pannu, that's Aditya's not-so-close friend, and of course, that ticking time bomb of that FBI case in the United States. Pramit.
Personal relations at the highest level, especially the largest countries, are useful. It means that you get access. You are able to call the White House or vice versa directly, and you're able to raise issues, and you're able to meet regularly. Right. But keep in mind, neither President Trump nor President Biden or any president can override a legal case where the Department of Justice has already issued summonses and warrants and so on. Right. That wheel will turn on its own. Yes. So that is nothing that can be stopped once that's done. So like the cases against Gupta, for example, that's nothing any U.S. president can do to stop that. That would be intervening in a degree of impossible intervention in a judicial system in America, which is extremely independent of the executive. Yes. So that I don't see making much of a difference. But it allows, but definitely, Modi is in a position to call Trump or meet him and complain and say, I have other issues that I think need to be raised, or somebody don't lower down the bureaucracy. This is where the influence really lies, is in the executive and the bureaucracy is posing a problem to us, and we'd like you to look at it. Right. And that's where that really lies. Yes. But Trump is, in my view, Modi actually had a better relationship with Biden, but Trump is a bit erratic. More or less, as you said, he knows how to handle Trump. Right. He knows how to massage his ego, what he likes to, what he needs to keep him happy. And India has not just Trump; it has a good relationship with members of his inner circle, including his daughter, his son-in-law, and various other people. The type of people Trump actually takes more seriously than he often takes people in the executive, the permanent bureaucracy in his executive.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, on that note, I'm going to ask Justin Thomas, my colleague, who has been tracking Team Trump very closely. Justin, you've been following all of these gentlemen, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and of course, Vivek Ramaswamy. Tell us what you know so far about what Team Trump is going to look like, in his second avatar. Who are the key people who are going to play a very, very important role in 2025?
I think the one person who's sure shot is likely Brooke Rollins. She's, America First Institute heading and also part of the Trump's first term. Right. And she's likely the candidate chief of staff, the person who's going to look out completely the whole team out there in the White House, running all the policy decisions. So she's the person who's likely to be the person. And Rick Grimer, who is the ambassador to Germany during Trump's first term, is likely to be the Secretary of State. There people are saying that he's likely because he has been closely campaigning for Trump, pushing his policies, foreign policies, writing out his foreign speeches and all those angles. When you see from the Indian angle, Indian Americans out there, Kash Patel is, one of the sure shot candidates that's going to be. He's been the counterterrorism chief in the National Security Council of Trump in the first term.
A very interesting personality.
Exactly. Right? And he was going to be promoted in the first term itself.
As CIA chief.
Exactly.
As deputy chief.
Deputy chief, and Trump backed out because he faced a lot of opposition. That's not going to happen. So CIA is likely, we could see an Indian American out there. Right. Vivek Ramaswamy is a very, if you remember that when Vivek pulled out of the race, Trump praised him publicly, and obviously, he has been a vocal supporter. Right. I mean, he had that ability to, spell it out properly, clearly, in their layman's language, what Trump wants, what Trump team mean. So he's could look through some key positions end Trump candidate.
Vivek Ramsawamy. You traveled to his village.
Yes, I did. And this family was obviously, very excited when he was going through those campaign, and hopefully they were saying that they should be, he should be in White House. So in some form, he's likely to be. Elon Musk, I think he will be more behind the cabinet rather than inside the cabinet, because that works both for Trump and for Elon Musk, because Elon Musk is heavily invested in a lot of things. And for a businessman like that, he has to, give up ownership, sell shares. There's going to be too much asking for him because he's the, the person, the brain behind all his companies. But in terms of policies for space, technology, he's the guy who's, Trump is going to, go to him, listen to him, and, try to enact. So, yes, Elon Musk has a role, but not likely in the cabinet.
Not in the cabinet, but he's going to be, a key part of the Trump administration in some form or the other. I want to bring in Colonel Anurag Awasthi, who's a specialist in semiconductors. Colonel Awasthi, this is a sector that you've been tracking very closely over the last couple of months. Do you foresee any amendments to the CHIPS Act by the new administration, the Trump administration? Something that has a bearing on India, because we've started setting up our own fabs in India, and that's we have a lot of catching up to do. But how would a new Trump administration prove beneficial to India, given the fact that the Prime Minister mentioned that technology is one key area that he's identified as cooperation in the India-US story?
Sandeep, firstly, let me just get on with the CHIPS Act, which is a lot of people have this discourse that now, since the new president is now going to be taking oath and assuming office in the next month or so the CHIPS Act will undergo a change. In my personal opinion, I really don't think so. I don't think so, because, see, it was signed in August 2022, so it's not that far ago that it was signed. Secondly, if you look at it in the financial metrics, half of this subsidy, as per the open source reports, has already been dispersed. That is one. So what we need to understand is that the CHIPS Act still remains central to the American policy discourse. At the end of the day, in terms of high technology, it still remains central to the American policy discourse. Now, how it plays out, because there could be some reappropriation of the money which has already been sanctioned. That is a possibility in some manner or the other, which the new administration feels. But personally, I do not feel the CHIPS Act will undergo any kind of change. While a lot of people may be saying so, but it's my personal view that the CHIPS Act will not undergo any change whatsoever. Now, how would it roll out further? What I personally feel is that it will augment the ongoing of the technology dynamics with China. There are those trade and technological issues which are already going on, and of course, because of this, it may impact the matured as well as the developing ecosystems in the world. That is for sure. That is a no-go. But when you look at it in a bigger frame, there are projects in Arizona, there are projects in New Mexico, there are projects in Oregon, there are projects in Ohio who have already been beneficiaries of the CHIPS Act. Or there's a Micron $100 billion facility on memory chips coming up in Syracuse. So all of these, once the distribution and the disbursement of the allocated money of CHIPS Act has already been done, I do not think it is going to be undergoing any kind of change.
No great change, but and talking of chips and technology, I want to bring in Rahul Chaudhary Rahul Chaudhary has been former CEO of Tata Power SED and been at the forefront of developing cutting-edge technology for the Indian Defence Forces. Rahul, welcome to the News9 Plus show.
Hi.
Rahul, this one of the agenda points that Prime Minister Modi outlined with President-elect Trump was technology. It's a very broad, sweeping area. When it comes to India and the United States, there's a range of technologies that play here. But there's one area that you've been talking of, we've been talking of together in our conversations, is of Starlink. And do you believe that given Elon Musk's proximity to Donald Trump and the fact that Elon Musk wants to enter India, he's identified India as a key market for Starlink over the last 5 years, What's the kind of role that Elon Musk is going to have in this technology exchange between India and the United States? Will Starlink, for instance, be the new Harley Davidson between Trump and Modi?
Look, one of the, if you have been going through the press, Geo is trying to do the same thing in India, but I mean, the kind of level of technology and capability is far different.
Right.
No, I mean, Starlink is a very small, look, Starlink is a fantastic capability.
Yes.
Russians have tried to jam it and they could not.
Right.
The Israelis went begging for this technology, and that was one of the reasons by which they were able to do whatever they could do in last one and a half years in Gaza and all those areas.
Right.
It may be a civilian technology. I mean, Ukraine is an example. But the kind of capability that you are talking about is way beyond even the American military capabilities of today. And in fact, it was one of the pieces which Donald Trump discussed in his acceptance speech.
Yes, absolutely. Very, very unusual for a president-elect to be talking about Starlink, which is why all the antenna, I'm sure, went
not
up
only
in
Starlink,
India.
he talked about what he was. Please understand what he was talking about. He was talking about very, very subtly the kind of technology with which America can fight.
Yes.
And take things on.
Right.
So it was a clear message to China and Russia.
Yes.
That the starting point was the SpaceX rocket coming down, and he spent about a good 2.5 minutes on it.
Right. Right.
The message was, the last two lines of that was, anybody else can do this?
Yes.
Said no. Starlink again, anybody else can do this? So what he was bringing out very clearly is the technological prowess of America.
Yes.
And what he was building in also was that his entire piece is far beyond. He is not going to be that transactional Donald Trump. He's talking about technology and technology capabilities.
Yes.
And one of the biggest thing which is revolutionizing the American manufacturing is the Gigafactory.
Right. Absolutely.
And that is a billion-dollar opportunity for India. Just like Y2K created the kind of capabilities and acceptability of Indian IT in 2000.
Yes.
And from where we grew, if you look at what is Gigafactories ultimately is huge manufacturing chains in one place, and it is not only about Tesla car being manufactured.
Right.
It is taking the paradigm shift from 1910 Model T, where outsourcing and supply chain in a place became like Detroit became a center for car manufacturing.
Yes.
That changed with the computers coming into place, into especially the supply chain, which is what happened when the computers became cheap, and it was in 1990s. The global revolution and global outsourcing is as much about the ability to control a supply chain across the globe. This is completely changing.
Yes.
And here is where a technology partnership with America and India.
Yes.
And they trust us. They don't trust us because much more than the Chinese or anybody else. So if we are prepared to create this completely new paradigm and capability, then Musk will be a part of this.
Musk will be a part, and in fact, Rahul, I'm going to come back to you later. I just want to get in Pramit on this. Pramit, Trump 2.0, do you think he's going to be less transactional than he was in the past? Given the fact that, we have a lot of items between the India-US, especially on the defense side, which are seemingly held up. Like a critical component is fighter jet engines. There's talk of transfer of technology to build that. You have a very crucial Indian project, the light combat aircraft, that's held up because of lack of American engines. Do you see Trump doing things differently in his second term as opposed to his first term?
See, Trump in this term is going to be very focused on domestic issues.
Right.
He's obsessed with the idea that he has enemies at home that he must root out.
Right.
So you're going to see him launch major attacks in American institutions like the FBI, the special prosecutor's office. He will fight with a whole set of institutions in the U.S. government. He wants to purge the State Department of people who he sees as disloyal, and so on. So you will see the president being obsessed with this.
Right.
This will consume a lot of his energies. Institutions in America are powerful, and there will be a major struggle on that front. As a result, I would expect that his foreign policy team will actually have a fair amount of independence to do whatever they feel like. And if you look at the people that he seems to be bringing in, Kash Patel was mentioned, Robert O'Brien, Elbridge Colby, and so on. They are singularly focused on China as America's overwhelming enemy. Right. They are not very concerned about Russia. They do not see that as a threat to the United States. And they would like to see the Middle East basically wind down as quickly as possible. Right. But they don't want to get America militarily involved. I expect then that, yes, he will be transactional to some degree. Right. He doesn't like the idea of giving away things for free to other countries. Remember his constant complaints against the Europeans. Right. So I will expect that he will be a little less generous on technology than Biden. But to a large extent, I don't expect him to be personally very concerned. He will leave that to his team to decide what he needs to do. So for us is to work with the team, and they are people who are almost all of them are very familiar with India and are very supportive of the relationship. So I expect broad continuity. Right. It may not jump to the quantum levels that we saw under Biden, especially on technology, but what has already been agreed upon will almost certainly continue. So, for example, supply chain agreements under the Quad that were announced on semiconductors, on pharmaceuticals, on green technology, those will continue. America is determined that it wants to weed China out of those supply chains. And that requires India and some other countries to be part of that. So that will continue. But we will see, I think, less of Trump being involved and much more of his team being involved.
Right, absolutely. Thank you very much, Pramit. And I'm afraid we're completely out of time here. But as we discussed today, that it's going to be continuity of foreign policy under Donald Trump 2.0, and the Modi-Trump relationship, of course, will play a very, very crucial role in the months ahead. But thank you very much, Colonel Avasthi, Pramit Pal, Rahul Chaudhary, my colleagues, Aditya Raj Kaul and Justin Thomas for joining us this evening. An indigenously designed, developed and manufactured robot boat has just completed a 1,600-kilometer voyage from Mumbai to Tuticorin in Tamil Nadu. Just to give you an idea, this is longer than the road distance between Mumbai and Delhi. How did this journey come about? And what are the possible applications of this technology? We're going to talk about autonomous, weaponized boat swarms. I have with me today Captain Nikunj Parashar, who's the CEO of Sagar Defense Engineering, and in the studio I have with me my colleague Deepak Badana. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show.
Thank you so much.
Captain Parashar, first up, congratulations on this feat. I have to ask you, how much of Matangi is indigenous? We talk about IDDM. How much of this boat is indigenously developed, designed and manufactured?
So the boat, the platform is completely manufactured out of India, leaving the engines which are imported on it. The technology which is running the boat autonomously is completely built out of our Pune factory.
Right. Oh, okay. So it is IDDM except for the engines?
Except for the engines, that is correct.
Right. And Captain Parashar, this your release mentions that the vessel navigated and executed security tasks autonomously. What are these tasks, and how do you envisage these tasks being used for, say, the Indian Navy?
Perfect. So as we look out the conditions out at sea, right, and venturing into space is much easier than going out at sea.
Right.
For example, fortunately, unfortunately, we sailed out from Mumbai in late evening, around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the evening, and in 2 hours' time, the sun set down onto us.
Right.
Post the sunset, when you look out at sea and you have fishing vessels, you only see these blimps of lights which are red, green, yellow, and they're flickering around.
Right.
And while we were hugging across the coast, we were doing somewhere around between 15 to 20 nautical miles range from the coast, where you have the maximum of the fishing traffic.
Right.
Navigating this fishing traffic properly without having a collision avoidance, because a lot of these fishing vessels will not have an automatic identification system also onto them.
Yes.
That means the vessel's guidance system, the AI guidance system, has to understand them, what they are, what action they are taking, and take reactive action to avoid them out at sea. And then come back on the pre-planned route which has been set in for it to reach safely. Now, it does not mean that if I have to go from point A to B, and if I have gone to a left or right, I'm immediately going to come back on the route. She has to actually come back in the most safest and efficient way onto that route. So these were the tasks which were carried out throughout the journey across all the way till Tuticorin.
Oh man, that's like over 1,500 kilometers. That's a long distance for this boat to travel. I must ask you this, what is the size of the boat? How big is the Matangi in terms of displacement and length and all of these parameters?
So I'll put in comparison to the boats which are already there with the Navy. First is something which we call fast interceptor craft, which is FICs.
Yes.
Now these smaller vessels are still larger than these, the Matangi which you're seeing here.
Yes.
And these are upwards 13 meter plus. And then you have ISVs, inland support vessels, which are upwards 15 to 17 meters in length. Now FICs are designed to work within the harbor.
Yes.
And ISVs are designed to go to the ODA areas and go to the offshore oil fields and carry out security surveillance, but they come back in. Matangi, in the design phase, the length overall is only 13 meters, and I would say less than 13 meters.
13 meters. That's smaller than a city bus.
Yeah, and smaller than an FIC, which is supposed to be within the harbor areas for protection. So the biggest challenge, and I would say that Navy support has been very strong here, along with the IDEX program, which really guided us to design this vessel on those lines.
Yes.
So this vessel, which is a small form fit, but it's a chota packet, bada dhamaka style, I would say, was capable of actually going out at sea and then traversing these distances. The first distance we did was somewhere around 320 nautical miles to Karwar.
Right.
The second distance from Karwar to Cochin was much more tougher, because on chart it was almost 360 nautical miles.
Yes.
So a vessel of this size, having a fueling capacity of around 1,200 liters, planning its own efficiency, looking the best possible route, she performed perfectly fine. So yeah, that's how you look at Matangi.
Right. And my colleague Deepak Badana, who's in the studio here, has a question for you on Deepak, on the application you were talking about, the application of these autonomous vessels.
Exactly. So what kind of tasks do you see this vessel performing? It is autonomous. So what are the things that it's been programmed to do?
So yeah, so when you look at it, the first mission for these platforms are ISR, Intelligence, Surveillance and Reconnaissance Operations, which they are designed to carry out. These platforms are also capable of carrying out certain MCM operations across. Now, if you change the engine formation on board, from outboard you go to inboard engines, you can actually carry out MCM operations completely, mine countermeasure operations.
MCM is mine countermeasure operations, where you hunt and detect mines and destroy
detect
them.
the mines, yes.
Right.
And if you convert this vessel, because it's a GRP and a Kevlar reinforced platform, if you convert into a non-magnetic, non-acoustic signature hull platform where you use aluminiums and other alloys, the same platform can also be used, the same hull form can be used for ASW, anti-submarine warfare operations also.
Right. So that's a range of applications that the Navy could, benefit from. And, Captain Parasha, I have to tell you this, that over the last couple of months, we've been seeing one company's name constantly pop up when it comes to innovation, especially in the naval side. And that's your company, Sagar Defense. We keep hearing about the very radical stuff that you've been doing, pioneering ship-based UAVs, including drones, manned drones, and now you have this, autonomous robot boat. Tell us about another application that we've been hearing a lot about, which is the autonomous weaponized boat swarm. We've been seeing a lot of that in the Russia-Ukraine theater, particularly in the Black Sea. Could you tell us a little more about what your company is doing to give the Indian Navy this capability?
Sure. Thank you so much. I would just mention here it's 14 years of hard work and overnight of success.
Right.
So yes, it's been last 14 years of journey where now actually what we have been trying to do has, the customers have understood and customers are taking very seriously. So Matangi is the first of those platforms of autonomous boat swarm. It comes with a 12.7 mm SRCG gun in the front.
Right.
It has solid state Doppler radars. It also has a capability of having a loitering ammunition on board and launch these drones also from it. So Matangi is first of those 12s which we are building.
Right.
Now, when we talk about capability of USV, USVs work on different models. The first is you can have one command control station and you can have multiple of these unmanned surface vehicle out there. But then your logistically challenges comes in. That means for every boat you have one a command control station.
Right.
So Navy came up stating that why can't we have a mesh network? Not only that, and where we could control multiple of these USVs in a swarm pattern from a single command control station. And tomorrow, in a wartime scenario or in a threat scenario, it's very easy for us to control these. Right. So this is exactly what is the boat swarm, where you can control multiple of these platforms from one single unit. Not only this, in a scenario, if the command control station goes down, one of the USV becomes a control station, and then you can have a control across all your different USVs.
Right.
Then, and if you talk technically in terms of swarms are designed to work centralized, decentralized.
Yes.
All that capability is. So if you ask me what is Sagar Defense Engineering, Sagar Defense Engineering by design is a hardware and a software company.
Right.
By default, we are doing our boats too. Because if you would have not done these boats and platforms, possibly I would have not been sitting here next to you.
Right, absolutely. And, as you mentioned, it's 14 years of hard work, Deepak. There you have it, 14 years of hard work that's now manifested in the platforms that we are seeing here. Absolutely cutting-edge global technology of the kind that we've seen deployed in warfare theaters in Russia, Ukraine, and other places. And Captain Parashar, I have to tell you this because, I am a military historian as well. I've written books on the subject. And the fact that my first impression about seeing this, your autonomous swarming vessels was, it took me back to 1971, where the Indian Navy carried out one of the world's largest ship-to-ship missile attacks. And this possibly is the 1971 moment for the Indian Navy all over again in 2024. Who knows, the next such attack in the defense of our nation would be carried out by the autonomous boat swarms that you've just produced for us. But thank you very much for joining us, Captain Parashar. It's been so good talking with you, and wish your project and Matangi and all its successors all the very best.
Thank you so much, and pleasure to be there online. Thank you so much.
From robot swarms to firearms, in our News9 Plus special show, Guns of India, we compare two battle rifles, the indigenous Ugram rifle made by the DRDO and the US-made SIG 716 used by the Indian Army. My colleague Deepak Badana produced this show. He's right here in the studio with me. But first, let's catch an excerpt of episode 3 of season 2, Guns of India, dropping on the News9 Plus app. The Indian Armed Forces have embarked on what is possibly the world's biggest modernization drive. The two contenders vie to fill India's need for a modern battle rifle. The SIG 716I, made by US gunmaker Sig Sauer, and India's own indigenously designed and developed Ugram rifle. Both rifles represent different paths to modernizing India's small arms, each with distinct origins and advantages. So, what's the better fit? Which is the ultimate gun for India? Deepak, Ugram versus SIG 716, noisy battle rifles, big guns rolled out for the Indian Army.
It's quite an exciting time to be in the Indian small arms sector.
Yes.
I mean, this is burgeoning with a range of different companies. Private sector is going all out.
Right.
And today we're actually producing some of the finest small arms in the world.
Interesting, compared to say 10 years back, we were just importing, and today you have these two rifles, actually just one of them, that's made in India by the DRDO, and the other one, of course, is the SIG that's imported from the United States. And it's very interesting, Deepak, we were talking about the SIG and where it's manufactured. It's made in New Hampshire, a very critical state in the US elections, and this deal seems to have been announced just before the US elections. But there's another spin on this. We were under the impression that the SIG was going to be imported, the 72,000 SIG rifles were going to be imported, but now it appears that a certain quantity of them would be made in India as well.
So initially the first order was for some 72,500 rifles. Right. Most of them were going to the Northern Command. But then this year, an additional order of 73,000 rifles was placed. Now, I don't know what happened. There's obviously some things that we are still to understand.
Right.
But SIG has announced a partnership with the Naibe Group. It's
Naibe
Group.
The Pune-based company.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a Pune-based company, and there are plans to manufacture the 73,000 rifles inside India.
Right.
And these rifles, the parts for them, and in fact, SIG has also stated that India will become a regional hub.
Right.
So in the future, beyond this 73,000 rifles, you may also see more rifles which are being produced here for the rest of the world.
Right, absolutely. More rifles to be produced in India, but Deepak, at the end of the day, nothing works like an indigenous firearm.
True.
Which is the Ugram, which unfortunately hasn't got the kind of attention that it deserves. And we tried both rifles out on the range in Pune, and I personally fired them, which is part of the show, Guns of India, and I found the Ugram to be a very, very good product, very finely developed, very robustly designed product. And given the fact that the INSAS designed by the DRDO has met with so much of resistance, it's become a buzzword for what could have been but wasn't realized. And the Ugram seems to have overcome many of those design flaws. Deepak, what were your thoughts on that?
I'd like to take you back to a conversation that we had at DRDO with Mr. Prasad,
yes.
Who's heading the whole ARD program over there.
One of the last designers of the Ugram.
Yeah, he's one of the original, the last
INSAS
of the original
designers.
team
Yes.
that created the INSAS.
Yes.
And if you hear his account, he actually talks about all the problems that happened.
Right.
So he talked about how the first 5, 7 years, 10 years
yes.
were the years where we faced teething problems, and it's
yes.
very natural.
Right.
That is the first, major battle rifle produced in India.
Yes.
And there were some teething issues. But Mr. Prasad did point out something. You didn't really hear about all of these issues,
yes.
the small niggles, after the year 2014.
Yes.
So,
and they had more or less ironed out all those issues.
So while we had
yes.
problems for, say, 10 years,
yes.
Another 10 years we've had no problems at all.
Possibly the design stabilized. But that more of that on our special show that's dropping on the News9 Plus app. That's Guns of India Season 2, the Ugram versus the SIG 716. Download the app and watch.